Hey everyone, my name is Anahita Malhotra and I am the team leader for this presentation. Today, Team 2 will be exploring the controversial topic of looting and riots, examining both perspectives presented in our readings. Before we examine the two readings, it's important to understand the context. Looting and riots have been present throughout history in response to systemic oppression. From the civil rights protests to the 1992 Los Angeles riots and the 2020 George Floyd protests, people have used different forms of resistance to push for change. While some view looting as a necessary act of defiance, others see it as destructive to the very communities it intends to help. The first reading we'll explore is In Defense of Looting by Vicky Osterweil. The author presents looting as a form of political resistance, challenging capitalism, white supremacy, and wealth inequality. Osterwald argues that looting redistributes goods to oppressed communities and disrupts an unjust economic system. Some key arguments in defense of looting are: first, she claims that looting directly undermines economic systems that perpetuate inequality. She also provides historical examples where looting played a role in broader movements. Unlike gradual policy change, looting creates an immediate impact. One of the most striking quotes from the book is, "Looting strikes at the heart of property, whiteness, and the police, de-emphasizing its disruptive nature." Now let's look at the opposing argument. This perspective comes from an editorial published by the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. This article, called "Riots Exacerbate Inequalities," argues that looting and riots actually harm marginalized communities, leading to greater economic instability. The author suggests that peaceful protest is a more effective means of achieving change. The editorial highlights how riots and looting create long-term economic harm, especially in vulnerable neighborhoods. Businesses close, unemployment rises, and communities struggle to recover. The article also points to historical evidence suggesting that riots have not led to sustained progress. One quote from the piece states, "The real economic and psychological costs of such destruction and violence are borne by real people." This emphasizes the unintended nature of the riots. Despite their opposing views, both perspectives recognize some key similarities. Both acknowledge the historical role of riots in social movements. Both discuss the economic impact of looting, even though they draw different conclusions from it. They also agree that protests shape public perception and policy, even if they differ on the method of protest. And lastly, they both highlight the role of marginalized communities in activism. However, there are also some major differences. In Defense of Looting argues that looting is a powerful tool of change, while riots exacerbate inequalities view it as harmful. One sees looting as a way to redistribute wealth, while the other sees it as deepening economic disparities. The first argument is centered around dismantling systemic oppression, while the second focuses on the economic damage that results from riots. So my first discussion question is, how do historical examples of looting compare to modern instances? Do they achieve the same goals? I would like everyone to think about movements like the civil rights movement versus more recent protests. Have the outcomes been similar, or have the impacts changed over time? My second discussion question is, does media portrayal of looting influence public perception? How might this affect responses to protests? News coverage plays a crucial role in shaping public opinion. Some media outlets de-emphasize destruction, while others focus on the root causes of protests. How does this difference in framing influence government response and societal attitudes towards looting? In conclusion, the debate over looting reflects deep tensions between activism and economic stability. Looting can be viewed as a tool for change or a harmful consequence of unrest. Engaging critically with these perspectives helps us better understand how protests function and how they're perceived in society. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Joshua Perry, and I am the discussion leader for Team 2, and this is presentation 3. So, the first discussion question that I have is why is looting a powerful tactic that brings about the truth and justice of law and order? So, the whole reason of this is to gain back control. Rioting is seen as a response to people f feeling that the governing laws no longer work and don't work for the society. Looting is the tactic that appears from that. When people loot, oftentimes they are taking what they seem to have been once controlled by that institution or by those people, and they're now trying to take back control for themselves. Some people have a need for some of these items and can now have that need met for free immediately. The next discussion question that I have is why do people use rioting as a tactic for liberation? Some people have low income and unreliable income sources. So they feel the need that if they can take advantage of this opportunity, then they can get these goods and their needs met immediately. Rioting is also looked upon as being joyous and liberating to some people. They see it as an act of liberating what was once controlled. A quote that I had was the very basis of property in the US is derived through whiteness and through Black oppression. Looting is also seen to imagine a world without white oppression, without state oppression, and without a police presence. It is said that there could be a world of freedom, pleasure, and free goods through looting and rioting. So pretty much looting and rioting, it changes the property and income dynamic that has been kind of ingrained into our society. We all believe that businesses are purely for profit, and it's not necessarily that they have the good out for its consumers. The next discussion question is what are the misconceptions about looting and rioting? And the first misconception is called the outside agitator myth. And this is defined as the reason people riot is because outsiders are influencing them to. And this actually stems from slavery, and plantation owners used to claim that freedmen would come and tell the enslaved people that they are not real human beings. And the next misconception is that looters and rioters aren't protesters and they are animalistic. This comes from protesters trying to appear peaceful and keep their movement from inciting fear or violence. The roots of America's liberation actually comes from looting and rioting. And oftentimes looters don't just take the bare necessities. They take more valuable items as well. Like oftentimes they might take a TV or items like that. But this does not undermine the message that looting and rioting is trying to enact. Looting and rioting has always been there to influence change. Another discussion question that I had is rioting seen as violent towards the community, or is it just attacking the inequity of injustice? Rioting is seen as attacking the inequity of injustice. Looting, in a sense, is just mass shoplifting. Most businesses are insured, so will recuperate what they lost, but long-term problems still can affect their community. In most cases, the violence in looting is seen as like almost non-existent. Some riots and looting cases are leaving stores untouched because they have nothing to do with the actual issue. However, since looting sometimes is seen as like a black versus white thing, this can actually increase racial polarization. So some people may stop buying from these black owned or white owned businesses, and in the long term, their economy will be down. And also, the police want riots to be nonviolent. The violence that is occurring is usually on objects, such as breaking windows, And the reason the police want this is because it's easier to drag it out and kind of just let the protest die on its own or a riot die on its own. Because whenever violence is shown, change is usually demanded immediately. My next discussion question is rioting and looting, does rioting and looting help close the racial gap? And there was an article, and in Wisconsin there was a riot, and many of the businesses were minority owned. Although they may get insurance claims, there may be little to no rebound in their economics when the rebuilding is all said and done. Even though riot and looting may bring immediate attention to the issue at hand, some business owners' dreams actually get completely reduced. And in terms of minorities, it can be hard to rebuild and rebound from a riot. Like I mentioned in the other discussion question, this can further increase racial polarization. And thank you for listening. This has been my presentation 3.
My name is Brooke Bumpus. I am part of Team 2, Presentation 3, and I am the quiz guide. Question 1. What caused the massive riots in America in 2020, and how has it affected the economy? Answer. George Floyd's death made a huge change in America. People rioted in spite based on the situation that had occurred. The riots ended up costing America an almost $2 million in claims. That's a lot of money. Question 2. What are the main causes in riots? I'll give you a few seconds. Answer. The main causes are poverty and race. Nowadays, you'll see a lot of it because of race recently. There's been a lot of issues, but poverty is also a main one as well. Question 3. What are the 3 different types of riots? This is a difficult one. Answer. Commodity, communal, and political. So, the commodity is property but not people. That is the object of the attack. So people will attack stores, but they won't attack people. The communal is violent outbursts in which civilians riot against other civilian groups. This is probably where the race comes in, where different races will fight each other. And then political riots is against a government policy or treatment by government officials. A big one with this one is whenever the people decided to raid that one government building. And there has been a lot more talk about how government officials have been treating people wrong. Question 4. What is the true definition of looting? Answer. Stealing goods and products during a time of war and riots. Basically, they just break into the store and just steal the things out of the store while there is fighting going on. Question 5. How common are riots around the world? Not just America, but around the world globally. Answer. Around the world, there's at least 282% of riots occur more since 2011, and since 2016, the world has 300 riots a year on average. That's terrible. But people are fighting for what they believe in, and it's causing riots almost every day. And that's the end. Thank you.